G'day guys and gal, there are a lot of powerful people in Warhammer 40k. Every day we read stories of big macho men, or slick psycho women kicking heretic ass, but some stand above the rest. Primarchs, Greater Demons, and pretty much any named Necron character. Necrons are disgustingly overpowered, their technology is beyond our wildest dreams, and they can't really die, and they use shards of their gods as Pokemon. The only reason why we all haven't been bent over sideways by legions of soulless immortal robots yet is because they are very petty. The Necrons are always seeking ways to ruin each other's shit with sabotage, stealing, tricking, or even straight up just waging war against each other. After all, in Necron history, the only times the ancient fleshy Necron tier were united was when they were facing an enemy way more powerful than themselves. Throughout all these petty machinations and mind-bending displays of technological prowess, 5 Necrons have stood above the rest. 5 Necrons who are wildly overpowered, entertaining, and just all-round the best. Before we jump into that though, I have something to show you that I've been working on for a long time. You know the Doomslayer vs Astartes animation that I produced that got a shitload of views? Well, we're doing it again, baby! Vader vs Astartes is animated, has its SFX implemented, and will premiere this Sunday, 1 AM Australian time, 2 PM British time, and 9 AM American time. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think this one might even top Doomslayer vs Astartes. It's made in Blender, so the quality is unreal, and it's been animated by the legendary Paul1748, whose work you may recognize from his Guardians video, which showed the Lizardmen kicking some serious ass. Paul is actually available for animation commission, so I'll leave his email in the description below if you wanted to get in touch. The script for the fight is based on my Vader vs Space Marine lore video. Today I'll go over the top 5 best Necron characters, going over why they're the best, some of the insane things they've done, what makes them unique from the countless other Necrons, and the overall impact they've had on the Necron race and even the galaxy as a whole. Let's get into it. The first Necron in this list was the hardest to place. Whilst the next 4 are easy due to how iconic they are, the first one could have been so many. But I've put Illuminor Szeras here because he is one interesting mechanical hentai monster. Whilst recent lore has turned Necrons from soulless undead robots with no personality to jovial and quite memey skelly boys who do a lot of funny shit to cure their boredom, there are still Necrons out there who belong in a horror movie. Szeras is one of the latter. This cryptech was the Necron tier responsible for the creation of the soul furnaces that would complete the biotransference of the Necron tier, making the immortal metal warriors of today. Most Necrons see the biotransference as a bit of an L. Sure, they were no longer dying of skin cancer, but now they had no souls or free will. As such, Szeras isn't very popular amongst the Necrons, but they only really put up with him because he is a genius that is able to permanently upgrade the bodies of Necrons. Look at the dude, he didn't come out of a soul furnace looking like that. Szeras has an agenda beyond just becoming a metal man. He is one of the few Necrons that are aware of a secret and wildly overpowered state that the Necrons can achieve, a state of pure energy. Very few Necrons have been able to successfully turn themselves into beings of energy, sometimes even temporarily becoming a god when they do, and none have been able to maintain it. Szeras seeks this ascended state permanently. To do this, Szeras has been kidnapping various people from a number of races in order to experiment on them, thinking that the key to ascension is merging a soul into his form. He puts them in stasis, fills them with drugs to keep them awake, then cuts them open as they scream. To deal with the screaming, he just turns off his audio receptors. His preferred victims are the Eldar due to how large their souls are. Szeras is allowed to accompany Necron armies in order to capture new victims, because he augments the armies with upgrades, better visual optics, stronger armor, more power, you name it, he can do it. Wait a second. Can augment and upgrade warriors, is disliked by his own people, likes capturing Eldar. Wait a minute team, that's not a Necron cryptech, that's Fabius Bile. Seems like there's more than one mad scientist with zero ethics in the galaxy. Despite his bulk, Szeras is not much of a warrior, and instead contributes to battles with his ability to upgrade units. However, if one day he does achieve his energy godhood, then everyone might be in a bit of a pickle. Next up, the 4th best Necron character, Imotekh the Stormlord. Imotekh is the name Necron parents tell their children in order to get them to behave. He's a brilliant pharaoh of the Sortek dynasty, and up until the recent return of the Silent King, appeared to be the one Necron who would unite his race, forcefully if he had to, unopposed. Before the Great Sleep, Imotekh was a legendary general, but it was upon his reawakening that shit would go down. See, when he awoke, the pettiness of the Necrons was on full display. His previous pharaoh had died in his sleep, hence various nobles of the Imotekh dynasty waged civil war against each other for full control. One such noble awoke Imotekh, planning to use him as a trump card to end the civil war. Well, end the civil war Imotekh did, by killing all the nobles, including the one that awoke him. Imotekh then took command of the dynasty and outlawed infighting. Now, telling a Necron not to fight another Necron is like telling Majorkill not to get absolutely mortal on a Saturday night, so at first they didn't listen, so Imotekh killed more of them until they did. Turns out killing is a solid way to get shit done. With Imotekh at the helm, the Imotekh exploded in power, reclaiming dozens of tomb worlds and bending over the lesser races time and time again. Imotekh has personally led his armies to victory against the Flesh Tearers, the Iron Hands, the Tyranids, the Eldar Craft Worlds, and even the Black Templars. This is a big deal, as the Black Templars generally fall into the category of people who never really lose. With Imotekh as the poster boy for the Necrons, it appeared that their dominance of the galaxy was assured. But here's the issue. Imotekh, despite his head being screwed on and making good decisions, is still a Necron. Very proud and arrogant. When he beat the Black Templars and had Helbrecht, their leader, at his mercy, he decided he would humiliate him by cutting off his hand. Helbrecht doesn't really like getting humiliated, hence some years later, he returned the favour by boarding Imotech's flagship and directing it into a nearby sun. Imotech's pride took a bit of a dip, as he was basically forced to flee on an escape ship before he could even fight Helbrecht. This, as well as getting clapped by Logan Grimnar a few years later, established Imotekh as a brilliant but not flawless commander, a huge asset to the Necron legions, but not the one who would take the galaxy for them. Our number 3 spot goes to another member of the Imotekh dynasty, Orikan the Diviner. Before the Infinite and the Divine book, people had heard of Orikan as an unusually gifted chronomancer who was the only Necron to be like, hey, maybe this whole sacrificing our souls to these random star parasite gods isn't a good idea. Already capable of seeing the future as immortal, Orikan's biotransference gave him a huge power boost and the ability to walk back and forward in time. This made Orikan super arrogant, like he really lords it over everyone else that he can see the future and shit. He foresaw the Horus Heresy, the fall of the Elder, and other important events in very accurate detail, even more accurately than the Emperor. However, Necrons find chaos and humanity's plight so insignificant that it didn't even occur to Orikan to try stop any of these cataclysmic events from happening. To make Orikan even more of a memer, whenever his predictions are slightly off, for example let's say he reckons I'll Superman punch Timmy in the back of the head, causing him to have an aneurysm, but then in reality I go to punch Timmy and then a golf ball hits me in the head randomly and knocks me out, leaving Timmy unharmed, Orikan will go back in time, track down the person who hit the golf ball, and then murder them a few days before I'm due to punch Timmy. Orikan doesn't do this because he wants me to punch Timmy, I mean yeah he probably does, but the main reason why Orikan would go through the effort is to protect his own reputation as a flawless fortune teller. Unfortunately for Orikan, messing with the fundamental flow of time in the galaxy sometimes has repercussions. The galaxy will awkwardly try to correct itself, hence the following day after punching Timmy, I might get run over by a car. The person driving the car would be the widow of the golf ball man Orikan murdered, and she ran me over because she was so distraught with grief that she wasn't focusing on the road. Makes sense? Good. Similarly to Caesaris, Orikan is aware of the Necron's hidden potential to become beings of pure energy. Unlike Caesaris, Orikan actually figured out how to do it, and it doesn't involve having to dissect Eldar for their souls. When the stars align, quite literally, or Orikan absorbs a powerful energy source, Orikan can ascend into his energy god form, giving him enough power to defeat 6 Catan shards at once. As such, Orikan as a standalone entity could genuinely be the most powerful being in the galaxy. Like in his base form, he can travel back in time on a whim. You beat him, he goes back in time, learns how you did it, then you fight again. Even if you were to beat Orikan 1,000,000 times, on the 1,000,001th time he would get you. If you happen to catch him in his god form, then good luck buddy. Tearing apart 6 Catan shards with little effort is a serious feat, one that I can't even imagine the Emperor pulling off so easy. The number 2 spot goes to Zarek, the Silent King. When the Necron tier were turned into Necrons, all of them lost their free will except the Silent King, who was given command over all the Necrons. This unified hive mind was why the Necrons were able to compete with the old ones and their obscenely overpowered armies. It was the Silent King who rose up against the Catan and shattered them into shards. However, he did feel kinda shit about the whole sacrificing his people's souls and taking away their free will thingo, so he ordered his people into hibernation and then he released them from his control. He then wandered the galaxy and the darkness of the void beyond for 60 million years, learning, watching, and sulking. When he returned to the setting, he decided that he would return his people to flesh, blood, and soul. He doesn't know how to do that, but like, that's what he's gonna do. He got a tabletop model which kinda looks shit in my opinion. Like, I feel like they could have really jazzed him up instead of him just being like a large Necron. But despite getting a model, he's still yet to get much in the way of deep lore or a display of his abilities. Like, we know he's big and strong and whatnot, but we haven't actually seen him in action yet, which is why I don't feel right putting him in the #1 spot. What we do know about him is that he uses a Catan shard to power his standing throne thingo called the Dais of Dominion, and that he can wake up Necron tomb worlds really easily. We also know that he hates Tyranids due to the threat they pose to all the galaxy's biomass. Biomass he'll need access to if he wants to return his people to flesh. It also seems like he may have met and even befriended Sanguinis at some point, but that could have just been a lie to help manipulate the Blood Angels into helping the Necrons kill some Tyranids. Yeah, the dude really fucking hates Tyranids. If it wasn't for all the what ifs and maybes, the Silent King would probably be #1. But the #1 spot was always going to one Necron and one Necron only. A soulless robot who was able to warm our souls. A Pokemon collector who just wasn't a pussy about it. Trazyn the Infinite. Out of all the many abominations that Matt Ward has created, Trazyn was not one of them. A curious and non-malicious Necron overlord. Trazyn has dedicated his extremely long life to the collection of literally everything. See, Trazyn was one of the first Necrons to wake up from the Great Sleep. He was already very inquisitive and now had not much to do, so he decided he would instead collect a sample of everything and create the most fucking awesome and extensive museum in the entire universe. A symbol for each and every Space Marine chapter, a Custodes, a genuine perfect Primarch clone, various Titans, a Krork, Elder from the War in Heaven, named characters, and even a Tyranid High Fleet. You name it, Trazyn's got it. He tells himself that he put the museum together for when his Necron brethren wake up, but that isn't the case. The museum is for him, for he knows that when the galaxy eventually burns out and dies, and he is left alone, he will have a piece of everything that ever was, effectively immortalizing the galaxy. Now that is all neat and all, but is Trazyn powerful? Is he worthy of being #1? No shit, of course he is, otherwise I wouldn't put him here. Trazyn's power comes from his logic and surprising lack of arrogance. He is aware of his own limits and the power of his rivals, hence spends a lot of time preparing before each conflict. For example, when he was going to go up against Orikan, he knew the Chronomancer's time-traveling abilities would beat the shit out of him, so he stole a special time cloak which cancelled out Orikan's time powers. He also carried a very powerful scepter into battle, which allowed him to hold his own against a Catan shard in melee combat. Trazyn also sports the unique ability to possess any Necron under his command, shaping their form into his own, including whatever unique items he possesses at the time. Trazyn can also tap into his collection to use in battle. During the fall of Cadia, Trazyn unleashed ancient Space Marines and even a Custodian into the battle to help the Imperial defenders, whilst in the Infinite and the Divine, he deployed an Imperial artillery squad, a Genestealer cult, and an Elder Exodite war party amongst other things in order to help take down a transcendent Catan shard. As each army was contained within a literal Pokeball, and as he can carry around as many Pokeballs as he wants, Trazyn is borderline unstoppable. Obviously it's a bit sad for him to have to take things off display in his museum to use for war, but he can and has done it before. Imagine a mix of Ash Ketchum with Batman, and you pretty much have Trazyn. Like, despite Orikan's obscene powers, Trazyn was able to match and even overcome the Cryptek on numerous occasions, purely through being prepared and planning for anything. Plus, you know, a shitload of pettiness and spite. But regardless of power, abilities, uniqueness, and all that other shit, Trazyn is genuinely likable. Whenever you read about him, you feel warm and cuddly inside. You cheer at his triumphs and you weep at his fumbles. There is a Trazyn inside of all of us, and I don't mean that in a gay way. Or do I? If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of mechanical monster hentai. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more soulless content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.